Hey, WRC fam. Are you a school counselor looking for support and mentorship? I've launched the Well Rounded Counselor Facebook group. There, you'll find lots of encouragement and community from counselors all over the world. You can join the live trainings where you can connect and learn from myself and others. It's a safe and private group, and only you have to answer a few questions to join. I'll leave the link down in the show notes. But what are you waiting for? Join today, and I'll see you in the group. Welcome to the WRC podcast. I'm your host, Katrina Marie, and you're in the right place. Here at the Well-Rounded Counselor podcast, what you can expect is to learn, shift your thinking, and gain personal and professional growth. And if you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another podcast episode. The conversation starts now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2022. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be recording my first podcast episode of the year 2022. Here we are. We've made it. We're beyond the holidays. I hope you're feeling refreshed wherever you spent it, with whomever you spent it with. I know so many people traveled for the first time in such a long time, including myself, and it was so refreshing to see my family, my friends, to be in a familiar space that just felt like home. It was just a really nice feeling, despite all the the steps you need to take to prepare to travel internationally or anywhere, essentially, even if it's to another state or nearby location. You still have to do some travel preparations. And I know that there were moments in that caused a little bit of stress and anxiety, along with the worry and the doubts. Now, all of this is interconnected. What I'm bringing to you today is mindset is everything. And one thing that 2021 has definitely taught me is that I have needed to make it a non negotiable in my life to work on my mindset. Now, this is a podcast aimed to help you, no matter who you are, no matter what background you come from, no matter your social economic status, no matter your race, your religion. Mindset is truly everything. And I know this sounds super cliche. I know it sounds like you've heard this pretty much your whole life, and it's like, okay, but when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will show up. And I remember this because when I first started this journey of working on renewing my mind and renewing my thoughts and helping myself become the best possible human I can become, where I feel content, at peace, I can remove and release and heal parts of me that I can show up better and be of service to a much bigger purpose in this world. When I started to make this a non-negotiable, and when I decided to do this, the teacher showed up. Now, there wasn't just one teacher, it's been multiple instances in the last year. And I think one of the biggest shifts when this all started to happen was when I moved about 6 months ago. I was getting ready to move. So around June, July, I started to notice this shift, and I energetically felt like I was in a different mentality. I was opening up my creativity again. I was ready to get creative and work on my YouTube channel. And I started just really infiltrating this idea that I want something bigger than what I'm doing right now. Now, this isn't to make myself sound like I'm better than anybody, or I'm further along. I definitely don't know everything. That's for sure, for certain. But I decided that I wanted to really have the life of my dreams, to go after my truest desires and how I always, envision myself. And training your mind is like going to the gym. The more you do these exercises, the more you will get the results. Am I right? Now, there was a time in my life where I lost, I think, almost like 30 pounds, and I started noticing the results, and it became addicting. It became addicting, and I just wanted to keep going. And eventually, going to the gym or going to work out became a habit and a non negotiable. And that's the same thing with your mindset. Once you start learning and figuring out ways to take in the information to renew your mindset, and then you start seeing results, it becomes a non negotiable and you want to continue on that path. And so before I started my podcast, I had major limiting beliefs about the value of myself, my self worth. Who am I to have a podcast? Who would listen to what I have to say? What do certain people think about, what I'm doing? And, I was worried about who was going to find out about what I was up to in my free time. And it got to a point where I decided that if I didn't go after my desire, I am not going to be able to serve people in this world. Okay. So there was a part of me that just always knew that I wanted to get on this, entrepreneurial journey, which I'm still on and I'm still figuring out. And I have no shame in admitting that. So I always told myself, you're not an entrepreneur. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know the first thing about starting a business. And it used to overwhelm me, this idea of starting a business. And I would just shut down. And then my money story would start playing, my self doubt would start playing. I would just shut off and I would close all the creativity off. I would block anything that would probably come my way. And I would just fold and I would put my projects and my creative, um, zones of genius on hold. I would not even entertain it. So, what I'm getting at is I had major limiting beliefs about myself and about my potential, essentially. And today's episode is for you to recognize that you do have potential. It's all about your mindset, it's all about reprogramming. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have personally been doing every single day. Now, my journey, I didn't know when I started out on this journey of renewing my mind what that actually looked like. And I didn't set out to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then it's going to lead me to this. No, it just started naturally evolving because I just became open. Now, like I said, this happened about 6 months ago where I really started to notice the shifts in my thinking. It was almost like I just was a completely receptive person, and I had moved apartments, and the apartment that I was living in, I had lived in for about 6 years. And that apartment um was a place that had a lot of wonderful memories. And then I just eventually outgrew it. I outgrew the neighborhood. The neighborhood kind of made me feel like I was not really in an environment that really promoted this idea of, I don't know, nice wealth, affluent. It just wasn't promoting what made me feel good. And every time I'd go back to that apartment, I just cringed. I felt, ugh, it just felt gross and yuck. And there was nothing wrong with the apartment. It was so lovely, but it just made me start feeling like I don't want to be here. And I used to avoid going home. I pretty much made the apartment feel lifeless and soulless. Like there was no life in that apartment. And I just couldn't wait to pack up my things and get the heck out of there. And when I finally moved into my new apartment, it was beyond what I could even imagine. I knew I wanted to move in June of 2021. And I knew that for a very long time, but I couldn't conceive the idea of what that would look like, where I'd move to. I just knew that I wanted a spectacular view. And I knew that I didn't want to look at buildings. That was like the biggest thing because every time I look out my windows, I would see other buildings. It was a very urban area where I previously lived. And I would just tell myself, like, I want to move ASAP. And with Corona and everything, it prevented me from moving for an additional year. So I could not wait. I was like clawing up the walls, get me out of here, get me out of here. And so one of my non-negotiables when I decided what do I want in my next apartment was a view. I wanted some sort of view of water. And I was looking in a particular area in the city that I currently live in, and I wasn't really finding something that made me energetically feel like this was it. And I remember finding something eventually, and I remember going to the viewing of the apartment. I just knew the exact apartment that I viewed was going to be my apartment. Now, the best part about it was the view. The view was spectacular. I mean, I live on the 40th floor. So I have such a incredible view of the ocean and the canal, and I see boats and I see a park across the way. It's more than I could even think up. And that's what happens when you just are open and you're like, you know what, this is what I desire, this is what I want, and you just put it out there, it does come back to you. And you hold tight to what is important to you. Don't lose sight of it. Don't doubt it. Don't question the how. I I definitely questioned it many times. How's it gonna happen? I don't know where I'm gonna live in a month. And like I would freak out and stress out. And then, but I took massive action. I didn't just sit around and wait for things to come to me. I took action every day. I looked for apartments. I didn't give up. I stayed true to what I wanted. I didn't negotiate what was important to me. I kept it at the center. And then all these additional things started happening where the apartment was brand new, nobody ever lived in it before, all the amenities were built in. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so where I'm at today in this apartment, it also produced a new, fresh space for me to be creative, to bring you more videos on my YouTube channel, to be open to my social media and expanding that, which, by the way, I'll leave all of that in the show notes. It started allowing me to start listening to how to become an entrepreneur, my mindset, wealth consciousness, gradual incremental upgrades in my life. I started listening to podcasts. This is how I even started. I just started listening to podcasts. I started listening to this person called the Mindset Mentor. Now, I just went on to Spotify one day and I was just like, I want to listen to something that's motivating. That's all it really was. I just want to listen to something that was motivating and that made me just feel like I can do this law of attraction thing, because I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I bring in my desires? How do I really manifest? I see people creating the life of their dreams and I want that too. And like I said, I don't know everything. I'm still in my journey, but this episode is here to motivate you to figure out how to reach your goals and your desires. And when I found the Mindset Mentor, I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I stopped listening to music, first of all, because I just was absorbing and I was open and I was receptive to everything that Rob Dial was saying on his podcast. And then um I gradually began to expand and start listening to other podcasts. Another girl was telling me about how the law of attraction changed her life podcast with another host. And then I remember that there was a female entrepreneur whom I adore, Gina DeVee. She has her Divine Living podcast, and I just started listening to all of what they were talking about and who they looked up to, and that started motivating me to even expand. Like Tony Robbins was another one I started listening to. I mean, if you don't know who Tony Robbins is, get on his resources, because his resources are phenomenal. He is kind of like the godfather of self-development. And if you want to kind of get on this trajectory of really reprogramming your brain and figuring out where all of this learned behavior and learned programming comes from, so you can try to unprogram it and plant new seeds, I highly encourage you to start at least with that. But for me, podcasts became like my new workout. I needed to listen to it all day, every day. I didn't care, essentially, like who it was, as long as the content was resonating with me. And I was like, yes, 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 give me more. I want more of this information. And to this very day, even before I came on to today's episode to record it, I was listening to Gina DeVee. I'm obsessed with all of their messages, and all of them essentially have the same message. It's just packaged slightly different. And if all of these people who don't know each other, or maybe don't even know of each other, if they're all saying relatively the same thing and they're getting the results, something about this must be true. And so I began listening to podcasts. That was one of the steps I took. I also began listening to Audible. Okay. I started thinking, like, I want to read more books. Was something I wanted to do, but I didn't want to sit down and physically read a book. I wanted to be able to, be in the car, and I wanted to be able to go on walks, and I wanted to be able to, just walk around the house, do laundry, wash dishes. And I started putting on Gina DeVee's book, The Audacity to Be Queen. And again, it's all about reprogramming your mind and the different archetypes we take on in our life. And let me tell you, that's a highly recommended book. And none of this is being sponsored, by the way, but I'm just recommending resources of what I've done. And when I started listening to that book, I was like, well, what else is Audible recommending to me in my membership? So I started listening to more and more books. And then I came across from not just one, but two different podcasts I listened to. They both recommended Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, and You Are the Placebo. And I started listening to his work, and his work is incredible as well. And, all of these things just started showing up. It was like a knock-on domino effect, and now I am truly obsessed with taking all of this resource and information and reconfiguring it and putting it into my practice and how I help people, how I help students, and recognize and draw out ways that I can help them and reshape their mindset. So, what I'm trying to get at is the more you are aware as a person who is a counselor, a helping agent, a therapist, if you are willing to work on your own mindset, if you are willing to put in the work and be 1% better every single day, and by the way, I got that idea from Rob Dow. If you're willing to be 1% better every single day and say, okay, I did something different today and I learned something and I improved, I guarantee you over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you will become a completely different person. And each of these people that I listen to on a regular, consistent basis, they don't stay in the same space. They are also constantly evolving and becoming a more conscious person and how they can evolve and become of service to other people in the world. And, you're probably thinking this is a podcast about counseling and working with students and working with people. Yeah, it is. But it's important to recognize how we think, our patterns, our learned behaviors, our subconscious programming, and how that impacts us and how all of that impacts the way we counsel others and we show up and we serve the world. And what is your superpower, by the way? You need to figure out, okay, where is it that I can always improve and what am I strong at? What is my superpower? And for me, my coworkers, my friends, my former colleagues, they all tell me the same thing. What is my super and how can I build on that? Okay. And then you get that feedback of areas of improvement and figure out where that area of improvement started. Don't let that be a label for you. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that make you feel crap about yourself because let me tell you, if you start dwelling on every negative feedback that somebody tells you and you take on that identity, you're going to stay stuck. You're not going to move forward. And I remember there was a time in my career where I was very stuck on what a former boss had said about me to my face in a meeting. And I was stuck on it and I wouldn't let it go. And it was hindering my relationship with this person. And it just was a terrible feeling. And every time I was around them, it made me feel uncomfortable. But it really wasn't about that person, it was about how I viewed myself and what I believed and when I decided to say this is not true and I can change and I can become better, my relationship with myself became more valuable, more confident, and how I viewed that relationship with that person evolved and changed. So you see, it's all about our mindsets, all about how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we have learned things, and how we can unlearn things. And the mind and the body connection are incredible. And I'm telling you, read these books that I had recommended Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo, and Becoming Supernatural. They are a bit dense, but the information, the case studies, and the meditations and all of that stuff, let me tell you, it can be very effective if it resonates with you. Okay. But one of the biggest things I want you to take away from today's message about mindset is start doing things in your free time that truly bring you joy. Start doing things in your free time that really truly bring you joy, that help you ultimately become better in your practice, ultimately become better in your mindset, ultimately help you realize how you can evolve and how you can be more at peace every single day. And if you are at peace, if you take that time out to do what it is that is your bliss and brings you joy, I guarantee you it's going to show up in your practice and how you help other people because if you are content and at peace with yourself, it's going to just radiate, it's going to emanate, people are going to notice a change in you and they're going to want to know what you're doing. So I want to let you know that law of attraction, source, spirit, guide, God, whatever it is that you want, build that foundation, build that relationship. I'm not saying that you have to, but it is something that can um, be, I think, a huge assistance. There are spiritual principles out there. There are laws around that. There's a lot of literature around this. This is not something I just decided to make up, but when you actually start doing the research and you actually start listening and reflecting and seeing the miracles, seeing the abundance, seeing the resources show up, I guarantee you, you will see the abundance. You will see the grandeur. You will start to see how you can serve others so much better. And one last thing, you are meant for bigness. You are meant for greatness. You are meant for more. You're meant to have your desires in your life. Life is meant to give you happiness. It is not meant to be tough on you. It is not meant to be stressful. And I am certainly guilty where I have my meltdown moments and my tears and my anxiety. I am still working through that. But let me tell you, I rather keep practicing to get better and handle and show up when these situations arrive and be thankful. Okay, great. I'm thrilled I get to do XYZ today. Even when it felt pretty crappy, there's always a bigger purpose on the other side of these things. Okay, so that's my message for you today. Mindset is everything. I will leave all of these details in the show notes so you can refer back to it. And I hope that today's message really inspires you to start 2022 off renewing, reprogramming, helping yourself become better so you can serve and be amazing in the world. All right. Talk to you all soon. And also, don't forget, please leave me a review. Leave me a review on Spotify. It really helps other people find the podcast. If you are finding these episodes amazing, send me a DM. Let me know who you are. I want to know who's listening. I do get, people messaging me here and there, but I would love to know, where are you listening in from? How has any of my episodes helped you? And remember, stay true to yourself. I'm here as a resource, and I will catch you all on the next episode. Did you love the episode? I hope you're feeling inspired and no longer feeling alone out there, and you're ready to evolve and become a better person. Make sure that you share this podcast or take a screenshot and post it on your social media. That's how you help spread this podcast organically, and people can find it much easier when you share, or share it with a loved one. I'm your host, Katrina Marie, and make it your mission to be a blessing in someone else's life today.